Hello, welcome back to A Spiritual Ascension, my 5-year journey, where I'm telling my entire ascension journey that started April of 2020 and ended exactly 5 years, April 2025. So when we left off, um, I had walked away from my accounting job and um, which was really difficult. Was proud after going through everything I had gone through to be able to obtain that position, even though I was still living in a shelter at that time. Um, my manager, who had some anger issues, kind of took that anger out on me one day. And I'm hearing spirit telling me, leave, leave now, leave now, leave now. And I had asked for a portal, and I had time to then gather up my stuff, and I walked out of that position. And as I said in that video, that these things happen, which they don't feel good, but they're also building up your self-confidence, right? Understanding your self-worth. If I was to have sit there and allowed that kind of abuse, which I had already gone through previously with that family member, um, I was not mastering that part of my journey. So I left, and um, now I was without a job. So from there, that was going to say mid-February. So I had only been there maybe 6, 7 weeks before I had left the job. Understand too that the universe wants to push you forward, right? My destiny was not there in New Jersey. My destiny was here where I'm at now. So I couldn't stay in one place. The universe was pushing me forward on my journey so that I could get to the next point. This is the start of the next 2 years, which were the hardest 2 years. Okay. I thought the last 3 years that I had just gone through were difficult. The next 2 years were very extremely difficult. So you're going to have to bear with me as I go through now telling you these next 2 years. And don't judge me because this was a part of my journey, right? We're each going to have our own journeys. And this is what I was supposed to go through. Okay. So I had just moved into this apartment with this other woman. I was renting a room from her. And um, I was also doing some readings um, online for people. So I was making a little bit of money on the side. But now I had given her February's rent when I first moved in. And now I had enough to give her March rent. I did end up telling her that I had quit my job, but I was now going to do my own work. I didn't understand what was going on, what the universe had planned for me at this point. Big thing of is having faith and trust that the universe is going to show you what your next steps are going to be. but you don't always have clarity until the universe is ready to give you clarity. Okay, it's all in divine timing, right? So for the next 6 weeks, um, it was hard for me because I wasn't getting enough readings. And it felt like it was weird because it felt like the universe, which I can tell now, would give me when I needed food or whatever, the universe would give, or I needed to pay my phone bill, the universe would give me enough to pay just those bills and to buy some food. And it was really weird. Like I could pay enough to pay my phone bill and then go and buy a little bit of food. So I had paid for March's rent, and I thought from whatever job she had, that she was going to work every day, but she seemed not to be going to work that often. So I was kind of confused to say, okay, if she's not going to work every day, I'm not now going to work, but I didn't let her know because I said, somehow spirit's going to tell me what's going on here or what my next steps are or provide a source of income for me, um, so that I could make April's rent. So as we now went into April, no, I'm sorry, went into March, um, it was getting a little, what's the word? Awkward in the house because I had told you before that I think she was kind of needy and wanted me more to be a friend to her, than just like a roommate. And I wasn't, not that our personalities clashed or anything, but I was so, you're going to get to the point where you're so ingrained in your journey, in your connection with spirit, that a lot of times it's hard for you to stay connected to new people. And I don't think you're supposed to stay connected to these or develop these strong bonds with other people because you're on the move constantly. Okay. Um, but it felt like she was always like constantly watching me. I also, my door, like, had windows. It was a French door, so it just had curtains. So it was kind of like awkward that like I had to make sure that the curtains were fully, covering the windows, and like I couldn't really be myself in the room because the conversation would travel, and I didn't want to go and sit out. If she would leave during the day and I would go have my lunch and sit down, um, at the table in the dining room, like a lot of times she would just come in and start sitting down and just talking, and of course, but it became the it begun it began to feel awkward. Okay. Plus, within myself, I didn't know what was going to happen for April's rent, and I had never been like that, as far as paying my bills. Um, I had lost everything before, but now I kind of thought that, okay, I was working, had a job, that the universe was now going to provide for me at least to, make sure I was, had what I needed to be able to pay. But understand that's not how things are always supposed to go. So the time is now coming towards the end of March, and I do not have the money for April. And I don't know what I'm going to do. I had, oh, let me back up too. Because if you remember, if you've been watching this in chronological order, when moved out of this family member's home, I had given a bunch of my stuff to a good guy friend of mine to hold on to. And one day he had come to the shelter to visit me. And he informs me that he had put my stuff in a storage unit. And I'm like, and I think it cost like, I don't know, $80 a month or something like that. And I didn't have that kind of money at that time to pay. I think I was getting maybe $180 a month in cash assistance. So now he all of a sudden made this bill for me that I couldn't pay him. And I didn't want it to build up too much. So that December, when I was still in the shelter, I had tried to contact him. Actually, I contacted him to say to him, could he bring me my stuff? Because now it had been like, I don't know, September, October, November, like 3 months that my stuff had been in storage. So I probably owed him, I don't know, say 250 or something like that. And since I had been working, I had that money. And I said to him, um, so I called him and I said, I was wondering if you could bring me my stuff, like I can pay you. And he was like really not nice when I asked him. And I was really upset with him too, because I'm like, you didn't even ask me if it was all right for you to put my stuff in storage, if I could afford that or whatever. I thought you were just going to keep this stuff at your house. It wasn't that much, enough for on the bottom of a closet or something like that. I had some really good, expensive sweaters and shoes and things like that, handbags. And that's all that I had left. So when I called him, he says, I'm at the hospital. I have the pandemic thing and I can't talk right now. He says, I'll call you later. And he was like really, really just not nice. I was like, what the heck, is going on? And so at that point, I had waited for him to call. I think I tried to call him, couldn't again later, a couple weeks, couldn't get in touch with him. And then I had, left the shelter to go stay at the hotel. And now I was at this apartment. Okay. So I just need to fill you in on that. I thought he still assumed that he still had my stuff, but it was in storage. And the months now had piled up, and I guess he was paying for it because he had never contacted me back to say, do you want to take your stuff now? And now I was at the point too that I didn't have that money to even pay him. So now we're coming up on the end of April, and I said, I don't know what I'm going to do. And what I was gathering from spirit, from, my own intuition, was that I was just going to have to leave there and trust, trust and believe that spirit was going to make a way for me. I had no resources. I had saved up like a jar of change. I had, a couple dollars on me at that point. I had just enough food to kind of last me up until that very last day. And she became kind of more confrontational during those last few days. And never was she asking me, like, are you going to have the rent for May 1st? Am I telling you guys this right? No, I'm sorry. I paid for March and then I paid for April. I'm sorry if I confused you. I moved in there March 1st. Yes. Okay. So then I paid March and then April's rent. So now we're coming up to the end of April, and I would have had needed to pay her May 1st rent. So she had assumed that I was doing enough work online to be able to pay that. I wasn't sure how I was going to go about this, but what I was getting during those last few days of April was that this is really hard. You guys are like the first ones I've ever told this to. Um, it's like desperate times comes for desperate measures. This is really the start of the most difficult part of my journey. Okay, so please don't judge. Anyway, a few days before April 30th, because I knew I was going, I think she had told me that she wants the rent on the last day of the month so that she can now pay the landlord by the first. I had to start thinking about I needed to leave, but I still now had accumulated more stuff since I had been in the shelter. And I wasn't going to be able to take all of that with me. I think I decided on, I had like a long duffel bag, and I said, I'm going to have to take the most important things that are important to me and put those in a duffel bag, put enough shirts and undergarments and a couple pair of pants in that duffel bag. And take that with me. I don't know where I'm going, but that was going to be it. I also had, as you know, I always journal. So I had been journaling for a couple of years at that point and had all of those books, especially everything I had gone through when I was with the family member. And I knew I wanted to keep those because eventually I am putting those into a book form and needed all those notes. Um, the duffel was huge. And eventually I said to myself, I can't carry this around with me because I didn't know where I was going. I was going out on the street. Okay. So I ended up getting a couple carry bags and filling those up with a couple pairs of undergarments, some shirts, and some pants. And I decided, okay, that was what I was going to bring with me. I'm going to end it here because I'm starting to have anxiety just thinking about, what happens next. But you'll understand if you continue with my story. So please like, share, and subscribe. If you would like a personal reading, if you would like to, you know, hear more about my story personally, or you want me to hear about your story, have some questions about spirituality or anything like that, there's a link below for you to book time with me. I've also done several courses on the ascension process, and there's a link down below for Udemy. Okay, so I'll see you next one.